Howdy and welcome to the Ethan Harty tour of Harty Locomotive Works. The shop is almost finished and it's looking pretty good, and I wanted to give you an update. We have our little tour guide here, Lydia. She's going to help us out. I'm not going to focus too long on some of the tools that you've already seen before in other shop updates or that I've talked about. And the ones that you haven't seen, I'll talk a little bit more about. First of all, the thing that just got done in the shop that's noteworthy is the cladding. So this is rough cut 1x6 cladding that lines opposing walls on both sides. And the handy thing about wood cladding that's thick like this is that I can bolt and screw anything I want to this. I can hang stuff, I can put benches, and it's very versatile in that way. And of course it looks very nice as well. The other opposing walls are antique galvanized tin. I think it has a nice look to it. And of course we have rough cut posts that support the mezzanine there. We have concrete in an L shape along these two walls of the shop that extends for about 8 feet to run the lathes on, the bandsaw, and then the workbenches. And then above the workbenches there is the mezzanine and the grinding room. Let's have a look at that. This is one part of the shop that I haven't got to clean up really nicely yet, but here's the door to it. It's pretty simple. We have some woodworking equipment, my little metal bandsaw, assortment of bench grinders, my 2x72 reader belt grinder, which is a top-notch grinder, little vise table belts, lots of unfinished tools here that need to be worked on, and hammer handles. If you don't know yet, I am selling hammer handle blanks on my website, both the high quality hammer handle hickory, as well as a lower quality hickory that can be used on top tools with less expense. Out here, the workbenches that I have is this fir woodworking bench. I have a little welding table and then my normal blacksmith's workbench over there. I plan on making a little bigger steel table soon. I have a 1-inch thick piece of plate steel that I'm going to use to make a heavy table to pound on. Let's have a look at the forging setup. My small forge, you've seen that before. This is the hammer rack that I made with Peter Braspinix in his hammer rack course that he taught at NATE a number of years ago. I still use it and I love it. This is my new Achaio anvil, which might look very unimpressive here, but I'm actually quite happy with it. I did a lot of modifications to it, and there's a video that I'm going to put out about what I did to this anvil and why I'm using this anvil for a little while. My leg vise here on this big heavy stand. I have a new striking anvil. This new design with the wide base plate here and the wide feet has a few advantages. The first one is that it's very, very stable compared to the old design where the feet come right off of the body of the anvil here. The feet are placed in such a way where the holes are at an equilateral triangle, so you can pivot this on the same bolt holes if you were having it on a piece of concrete. And the ledge here also provides a place for not only to put tool racks on, but if the sledgehammer bounces off, it doesn't go right down and hit you in the shin when you're doing a taper or something like that. So this is a great anvil design. We have a swage block, a couple of tool trays, my All Days and Onions power hammer. I have an old video talking about that. This is a 400-pound Peter Wright anvil. I have a 24-ton McNab press. I use this for all my punching and drifting on hammers and production operations. How about we just get a video over? Lydia wants to show you that ash pan there. This is a narrow gauge steam locomotive ash pan here that I need to do some riveting on for a client. So let's talk about something new and exciting. This is my jib crane. I did a whole bunch of hillbilly things with it, and I really, really appreciate this crane. This was originally a 2-ton capacity jib crane where the post was meant to be braced against a steel building. Obviously we don't have that here, and so I wouldn't want to lift maybe more than 1,000 pounds with it. There's also been some other modifications done to it that I won't talk about right now. But we have about a 15-foot swing on it. It goes 180 degrees and accesses this whole forging area. It's fantastic for working on big pieces. We've forged some 8-inch round under the steam hammer a little while back. There's a video on that with Andrew Larson and Mark Ling that you can check out. But mostly what I use it for is moving my tools around. Suede blocks, anvils, even this press, anything that's, again, under that kind of 1,000 pounds is perfect to move this crane around with. It saved my back. It's wonderful. It runs on 3-phase power, which is supplied by a little converter up there in the corner of the mezzanine, and that big heavy wire is piped under the ground up here to the crane. We also have power banks here on the side of the crane, and that's become very handy as well. But the 3-phase power allows a multi-speed hoist for the crane, and that's been incredibly useful as well. The hoist that it has is way overpowered for this size of crane. It's meant to lift 2,000 kilograms, and so I got to be careful once in a while. Actually, when I was installing this crane on the base in here, I was lifting a striking anvil out of the dirt that had stakes in it about 4 feet down or so, and it tilted the whole crane base up as I was trying to get it loose, and which is actually a good thing. So part of the design with this crane is that I didn't want the failure point of it to be catastrophic. I wanted something slow, I wanted something to bend rather than to break or to strip a bolt or something like that. Now, the counterweight on the base here, the base is 8 by 10 with a 1-inch thick steel plate and an I-beam frame. We'll put a picture of that so you can see. And these machine tools provide a great counterbalance for the whole thing. And now the base stays relatively flat, and if I pick up anything too heavy, I can start to see a little flex in the post, and then I know that I've reached my capacity. So I'm extraordinarily happy with this crane base. Of course, the advantage is that I can move it anywhere that I want, but it's pretty stable here. It accesses a good portion of the shop and even swings over in line with the bay door here, so that I can pull in a big truck and unload a shipment of steel or whatever I need to. That's already become very handy. This horizontal milling machine was given to me by a very kind fellow. I don't know if he wants his name out there, but he was from the Grand Prairie area. So this would be in the vintage of 1920s or so, or perhaps earlier. Originally would have run off a line shaft, but it's set up for an electric motor right now. Good girl, got some grit? Yeah, I got some grit. That's good. Okay, Dustin Smalls gave me quite a few spare parts for this. Some of them are a little big for it, but he has the same machine, and but it's been converted to a vertical milling machine. So we'll use up some of those parts. It's running. We might use it to surface some anvils or something like that. But in any case, it's a really handy, nice piece of equipment. This here is a industrial kitchen mixer that a friend of mine owns that we're working on here to get going. That'll be a neat thing. We can make 100-pound sourdough loaves and things like that. You've seen the steam hammer before on a few videos, but we haven't really talked in depth about it. But I'm going to save that for another video. The hammer is running at about 95%, really minty, and it's doing fantastic. The latest job I did with it was actually about 60 odd hammer billets, or axe billets actually they were, for Timothy Dick out of 1912 train rail. These are the smaller ones for his hatchets that he's doing. But the hammer's working really good. This is a large forge table that is antique, and I acquired it a little while ago. You can see it has an antique blower on it. It's quiet and it works fantastic. It's so superior to like the bouncy castle styles of blowers that I've been using on these big forges for years. Over here is a 1948 Rio truck. It has a bed that lifts up with a big hydraulic cylinder on it. This truck I got running with my grandfather last year, and we've used it a little bit, and it's actually for sale if anyone is interested. As well, we have a 1947 International 3-ton grain truck that's available too in really nice shape. So let's have a look at the mezzanine and the grinding room. Again, they stick 8 feet out from the wall, and the grinding room is about 20 feet long. And we have the staircase going up to it. You can see the little air compressor for the shock is underneath of that. Now let's go up to the mezzanine and I'll talk about that. So this is a nice place to keep all of the spare parts and things that aren't quite as pretty and keep them out of your line of sight when you're down working in the shop. This is also a good chance, while we have this bird's eye view of the shop, to talk about how I set it up. So our bay door is over there, and notice that there is a very clear open space in a U shape around the entire forging area. That's so I can drive a tractor in through the door and access all of this area to move equipment around. I have the corners open enough that I can turn around a tractor or a skid steer if I need. An example of where I'd use that is like this here. This is a tote with water in it that I can use to replenish my quench barrels and wash my hands or whatever. I don't have it hooked up yet. And by the way, the water on the floor there, that's from the ice melting. Don't worry, I don't have a leak in it yet. And so the tractor could drive right in and set that on the mezzanine. The mezzanine is about 9 feet tall up here or so from the floor level. And if I ever needed to get a big machine in here to remove or place any new tools, I have that ability and I don't have to go uprooting anything that's bolted onto concrete or whatever. This is a neat little piece I want to show. I'll put this above a workbench. My grandfather found this for me. This is a rotating bolt and nut and oddities bin here. It can be mounted on the floor on a bench or up on a wall. I just think it's fantastic. Each of these little trays is labeled here and they all swing around. I'm really excited to utilize that here. We have a bandsaw. This is what I cut all my steel with. I recently ordered a 20-foot section of H13, 1.5 inch round. If you're looking for some, I'm selling it on the website. I know that that's a hot commodity. I also have some 4340 and hammer billets that I'm offering for sale there. This is a little 7-inch stroke South Bend shaper, which is fantastic for making little parts. Works like a charm. Very cute machine. Just with all the linkage that's on it and everything, it really is like a miniature of the big shapers. This is the antique railroad lathe. This came out of a steam locomotive roundhouse a little ways south of here, and its vintage is probably in the late 1800s. It's not a super accurate lathe, especially because it's been used heavily around this part of the bed, and so there's quite a bit of wear on it. But I use it for parts that don't have to be to a high tolerance, and I also use it for things like twisting Damascus steel. It has a gear ratio that's really handy for that type of work. This is my Bradford lathe from World War II. Short, stouty, very heavy, reasonably accurate for anything that a hillbilly needs it for. And so I use this occasionally too for making tooling. So let's talk about some of the things that are yet to happen in this shop. We'll start with a little one. This is a post drill that I'll set up here on one of these posts. I don't have all the pieces for it, but we'll make them and set it up nice to use or for display. Second, there's gas lines to plumb in for the furnace and the forge. I actually have my gas line running through a window and through the crack of the grinding room door there for the forge, but I'd like to put in some proper pipes for that. There's lots of little trim pieces that need to go on and things like that. But for now, Lydia's getting cold and it's time to go. Thanks so much for watching the video and for all those who have supported and encouraged in completing the shop. We're getting pretty close now and I'm very thankful. So have a great day and enjoy the shop that you work in. See you on the next video.